Hey everybody, it's Chris Eads, known online as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. This week, I want to talk about FlameCon, because this weekend was FlameCon, which is why this is slightly delayed, because that took up my weekend. FlameCon is, well, it's touted as the world's largest LGBTQ comic con, which honestly, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of competition, but still, way to go Geeks Out. It started as a little Kickstarter. They did have a Kickstarter for the first one 2 years ago, and it was in a really not a great venue. It's a good venue, but not for a comic convention. But last year they moved it to the Brooklyn Marriott, and it was there again this year, and in that is a fantastic space. And this year it was bigger and better than ever, and I hope that it continues to grow because it's a great con. It's a lot of fun. I love it because it's smaller, so it's not like huge stifling crowds. Everyone's much nicer and polite. You bump into somebody, they say, "I'm sorry," you know, like that sort of thing. It's very nice. It's very friendly and open. I mean, it's still crowded. I mean, there's a lot of people, and sometimes you can't get into the panels that you want to get into and stuff, but it's not like New York Comic Con where there's like hundreds of thousands of people, or whatever. I'm just not hundreds of thousands, but it feels like hundreds of thousands, and they're all crushing in on you, and it's insane, and you have to get in line for, if you want to see a panel or something, you have to get in line like an hour early, and you're just standing there for an hour wasting your time just so you can see a panel, which just seems silly. Here, I was looking forward to one panel, which was a Rachel Pollack career retrospective, because I had actually worked with her back in the day. I used to work at DC Comics, and I was the assistant editor on New Gods, which was written by her and Tom Peyer. I feel like it was like her first work at DC. She then went on to do like Doom Patrol and other things, and unfortunately she couldn't make it, and it had to be cancelled, and I was sad. But later in the day I did attend a panel called Queer Hollywood Then and Now, with Vincent Rodriguez III from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Mark Patton from Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And they discussed, it was really fascinating because Vincent was talking about, you know, Hollywood now, where it's okay to be open, and he is an openly gay man, married, who is starring as a male romantic lead, heterosexual lead, on a television show. Versus Mark Patton's experience back in the 80s, where everyone was gay, but you couldn't talk about it because you weren't allowed to be gay in Hollywood, and you had to be secret. And then, of course, AIDS happened, and that ruined everything even further. But it was a great panel, and even better, afterwards, Vincent Rodriguez III stuck around a little, and me and my friends managed to get over there, and he was like signing autographs and taking selfies with people. So I got a selfie with Josh Chan, and I am now moving to West Covina and leaving my husband. Just saying. Pitter pat. Also, I did not dress up this year. I was just feeling lazy. I had no ideas for a new costume or anything, and I'm not going to New York Comic Con this year anyway, so I was like, whatever. I just was like, nah, I don't have any ideas, I don't feel like putting forth the effort to make a new costume, and I didn't want to recycle one of my old costumes, but I was just like, I'm just going to go as a normal human being. But there was tons of really great cosplay, and being an LGBTQ convention, there's a lot of crossplay. There was a fantastic Zatanna crossplay that I loved. And a friend of mine did this amazing Ursula that I bow to his skills. I could never pull something like that off. So that was great. Unfortunately, on Saturday, after my panel was the cosplay contest, and I watched the beginning of it, there were so many people in costume that it was taking a really long time, and I was like, I need to go home and eat dinner. So I kind of missed out on the end, so I don't really know who won. But because the Saturday night was the party, so I wanted to go home and run to the grocery store and make dinner and then go back out for the party later. The party was fun, but there was the problem is the venue is perfectly located. It's like literally on the corner where the hotel is here and the restaurant is here, and they cleared away all the tables, so there's lots of space. The problem is that the stage where the burlesque and drag performances were being held was in the upstairs room, which is much smaller. So the upstairs room, if you wanted to watch the performances in person, you had to be like this with a bunch of people and wait for like half an hour to get a drink at the bar because it was super crowded. If you went downstairs, you could watch the performances on TV monitors, and it was a lot more space, but there was hardly anybody down there. And I was upstairs and saw my friends downstairs, so after the first batch of performers, I went downstairs, and they'd apparently either left or gone upstairs because I couldn't find anybody. I found like 2 friends downstairs. I was like, what the hell? So I went back upstairs, but it was just so crowded and annoying that I was like, ugh. And I went back downstairs, but since I didn't really know anybody downstairs, I was just like, you know what? It's getting late. And the second batch of performers, I was like, I'm just going to go home now. I'm sure there were more performers afterwards, but I just couldn't. I just can't stay up that late. I'm old now, so. But some of the performances were like great because it's a drag show with burlesque performances, but it's all like geeky. So you have like someone dressed as the Scarlet Witch, and they're singing "You Have to Believe in Magic" from Xanadu, and then like "Defying Gravity" from Wicked. And then my favorite though was a giant no-face puppet that performed to "Gimme More" by Britney Spears, which I thought was just genius. And then halfway through the song, like the puppet, the tent came off, and there were 3 dancers inside wearing no face masks, and they did a little choreographed routine that was just terrific. Loved it. But then I didn't want to stay out too late because there's more on Sunday. I wasn't going to buy a Sunday ticket, but buying a Saturday ticket and a ticket for the party cost almost as much as the weekend pass. It was like an extra $5 or $6 to get the weekend pass, so I thought I might as well just spend the extra $5 and then go back on Sunday for a little while. I only went back on Sunday for like a couple hours. It's close enough to my house that I can actually walk there, which is awesome. But I just was like, yeah, there's not a whole lot going on, and I was tired, and I was just like, I'm only going to go for a couple hours. So I didn't go early. I went late, and I stayed for a couple hours, and then I came home and called it a day. Because I did want to go back because I wanted to exchange a t-shirt that I bought. Not this one. This one was fine, but I bought another t-shirt that I'll wear in a future podcast that when I held it up, it felt really small, so I got a larger size, but then when I got home, I tried it on, and it was, like, huge. So I was like, no, it's fine. So I got the smaller size again. So he was able to exchange it. I actually was surprised that I spent as much money as I did, because last year I didn't really spend anything. And then I splurged like $40 on this awesome, like, Totoro sewn thing, like a little crafty sewn felt Totoro just picture that I loved. So I was able to justify splurging. Here I bought a couple of t-shirts. There were a couple other t-shirts that I wanted, but I ended up like not getting them because, you know, they're like $20 to $30 for a t-shirt, and it's like I can't keep buying more t-shirts that I don't need. But a lot of it is like people selling artwork, and you know, it's all this anime and stuff, and it's like, oh, we're gonna draw like Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and it's like they're kissing, and you know, that sort of thing, which is cool, and some of the artwork is just beautiful, and I love it, but it's not my kind of thing. Like, I don't buy that to put up. I did buy my friend Ray. He's an artist, super talented artist, and he and another artist friend of his, they there's a few artists that they have. It's called Rage Gear Studios, and this year they were selling. They always sell their artwork, and this year the new bit was they had Care Bears dressed as the Village People, and they had Cheer Bear dressed as the cop, and it was the gayest, cutest thing. And I was like, this I have to have. So that I bought. But there was like a Showgirls poster that was like somebody had drawn. They drew like all the characters from Showgirls with little word balloons with like their famous lines of dialogue, and it was hilarious, and I loved it. But I was like, I don't know where I would put that. You know what I mean? And I know a friend of mine was saying how he buys like the small prints, and he just gets like a book, and he can put it in a book instead of hanging it on the walls. And I'm like, that's a good idea. But the Showgirls thing was it was a legit poster. Like that's not going to go in a book. So I end up not spending too much on that sort of thing. There's also a lot of like jewelry and stuff if you're a girl. I don't wear jewelry, so I'm not big on jewelry. I did also buy a book, 20 Years of Tomb Raider, which I had seen in Barnes & Noble and was kind of like, oh, this is kind of neat. I like, but it's expensive and I don't feel like paying for this. But there was a booth there that was selling some like video game art books, like half off and stuff. So I was like, all right, $15 is a pretty decent price. I'll pick it up because it's a cool book, The History of Tomb Raider. I love Tomb Raider. So that's it for FlameCon for this year, and I can't wait for next year. And maybe next year I'll dress up. Who knows? Maybe I'll have another idea for a costume. I will say that I had an idea that I was thinking I would like to get like a red leotard and sew some gold stars on it and get some black boots and do Wonder Girl crossplay. I actually saw a couple people dressed in that at FlameCon this year, so I'm like, phew, good thing I didn't make that costume. That would have been embarrassing. So looking forward to FlameCon next year, I mean. And next week, I'll talk about some more games, because I've been playing more of the update in No Man's Sky, and I have further opinions. So, but this is the FlameCon podcast. So next week I'll talk gaming. Oh, also Miitopia got like really extra gay this week. But again, I'll talk about that next week. So bye.